Hello, welcome back. Good to see you again, Coder Cats and Coder Kitties. I have missed you all. I am so sorry for not getting you a video last week, but as those of you on my Discord server know, I had a major problem with my computer with all of my case fans going out and a whole drama with getting all that up and running again. If you really want to know, ask in the comments or on the Discord server and I'll give you details, but this is actually the third time I'm recording this video. Once because of Fraps issues, and once because I figured out a much better way to do part of it. So I'm going back and restarting. So, without any greater ado, I owe you all a video about signboards, those things that you see scattered around the grid that have a whole lot of text on them that seems to change to cover whatever information is pertinent. So, to start creating one, as you can see I was already working on it, you would start with a Mark I cube. Now, this is the way I figured out to do it. It may not be the way that everybody else on the grid does it, but it is a way to do it, and it will teach interesting things. But you would then use the path cut to cut the cube in half, split it a little bit, adjust the letter positions to taste. Where you get the letters from, I personally just created this little texture. It's literally just a line with all the different letters, the numbers, and a handful of important punctuation marks, because punctuation can be very important. I saw an image out there once, I'm hoping I can find it to add to this video, that says, comma, punctuation is the difference between let's eat grandma, a rather disturbing way to end a family gathering, and let's eat grandma, a wonderful invitation to a family dinner. Anyway, enough of my very bizarre sense of humor. A thing you will have to do, since I was having trouble reinstalling my Paint Shop Pro, which is the program I usually use, and this was my first experiment with GIMP, is for some reason there's an alpha channel on there. It makes the black background semi-transparent. So you'll want to set your alpha mode to none if you're using mine. You then, while I go through and kill the original version of this, since I figured out a better way to do it. Here. You would go through, you'll want something that will, you don't actually need that. I used a command called get primitive parameters. I will show it to you on the wiki briefly. I will also show it to you in actual code. There it is. Well, it's set. I actually need get primitive params. And then if you scroll down, you get to texture. So all you'd really have to do is put get primitive parameters, parentheses, copy in the section right here between these two, everything including those two brackets, paste it in, then put the close and the semicolon. I'm actually going to put together just a quick rapid-fire set of calls up here that will call each of the individual letters. It will basically have the necessary information for how to do the letters. The way it's going to work is float A equals, And what that will have is the specific offset from the center in order to find that letter on the line. So I already have recorded the offsets for U and for V, but I'm going to get this all typed in here, and then I'm going to cut so that you can see the finished version. Okay, I've gone ahead and gotten them all in there. Right now, all except for the U, since I also have the data for that, are using the same value for V, because it needs to have something in order to actually compile. Also, I'm not able to, I have the N just to make sure that the variable names don't get confused with actual numbers. Now I'm going to go ahead and gather the actual displacements for each of these. I'm going to show you how I do that for one of them, and then just cut to having it all done. So here we go. So you see I just kind of tweak the variables until I get something that I'm happy with. And I have a small program inside this prim. They're linked together. That has say as a string, get primitive parameters, prim type texture, face 7, that's right there. I have other videos that tell you how to find out the face numbers. And if we go to, I find the easiest way to process the set, or the information you get from get parameters, is it's the same as for set parameters. Set parameters. Here we are. Prim texture, integer face. It then wants a string for the texture, that can be the key, a vector for its repeats, a vector for its offsets, and a float for its rotation in radians. So that would mean this right here is the key for that texture as a string. This next one is the vector for the repeats, that basically determines the scale. And then the vector for the offset, and then that would be the radians. So since the only thing I'm changing is the left or right direction, that number right there is the only part of the offset I need. That part of the offset I am plugging into the appropriate letter here. So now I have the data for T, U, and V. And I'm going to go ahead and do this for all of the other letters and then come back to y'all, because seeing me redo that 30-some times is going to get really boring for y'all. Actually, one element I decided to show just because it might not be obvious to some. Once you hit 0, if you want to keep going the same direction, just make it a negative. Yeah, it's a thing that should be obvious, but it's also, well, only particularly obvious to somebody that's really a computer type. If you're coming into this with a little less techy a background, it might not have been obvious. But there we go. And I wind up with my next offset right here. See ya at the next cut. Okay, welcome back. That took me a little bit, but I now have the specifics for every number and letter I put on, and piece of punctuation I put on there. I will probably put this in the Discord chat for those that don't want to take the time to figure it all themselves. Another holdover from when I did this initially is this piece, which is the root prim, is set up to be the central controller. That way, when this board is finished, I can have several of these and have it all controlled from the one central location. Now, the next thing we need to consider is the actual control to adjust the letters. So, LSL, set, primitive parameters. We want to set link primitive parameters fast. Why we're doing it this way, creating a separate command, integer link. This is going to determine when we have a larger board and we have multiple links to it, which one we're sending the given letter to. Integer face, which of the two spots for display it can show, and float letter will determine which one. The way this is going to work, paste, set link primitive parameters fast, scroll through the different parameters you can set. Here it is. Now, when we create the parentheses, we tell it the link, then the things we're going to change, face, and then this contains all of the settings which go into that. We do not need the extra brackets. That is actually not the correct thing. That time I got it copied over correctly. Yay. So the first argument it wants is right here. The actual texture ID. Somehow I accidentally copied the entire line when I only wanted that part right now. Then the repeats, which is basically scaling, that stays consistent, so we just copy that. Offset, that's where the magic happened. So we'll come back to that in a moment. And rotation in radians. And letter. That will actually control what letter goes into the spot. Save. There we go. So we're going to change the first letter in here, which is on link 2, face 7, and we're going to make that an M. 2, 6. Alright. Let's see if this works. Trying to maneuver this around, forgetting that I'm going to be making a pain for myself editing later. I'm trying to have it all on the screen at the same time. And it did not change. The question is why? Two, 7, 2, 6. Okay, that is confirmed to be correct. So the question becomes what the issue was. It does go link, face, letter. Oh, that's what I did wrong. Derp me. There we go. I forgot I had it set to touch start, not just to on start. So, there we go. Let's see. How about my Second Life initials? There you go. So, that is the simple way to start putting that together. Next week, I will go through and show you how to analyze an entire string of text and then turn that into a series of letters across a longer board. So, but the basic underlying technology is going to be exactly what you just saw here. So, I'm going to go get that letter line. Don't hold it against me that I mistakenly left off one number, it seems. Was mostly focused on getting the hang of GIMP. And I'll see you again next week with a video, barring some kind of cataclysmic complication, should be up by noon on Tuesday, Eastern Standard Time. I have a Discord channel available. You can leave messages, questions, requests for future tutorials, any of that in there. And so until that point, good day, good luck, happy coding, and I am glad to be back.